required to have a hearing individual on board at all times.
I can't stay with you for the rest of my life.
Jamal Finkley, BLACKTREE TV. Thank you. I'm trying. I'm trying to get better.
Nice to meet you.
Troy, first, great performance.
Yeah, but you're the first reporter that has signed to me, so good job.
Thanks. Troy, great performance. I really loved the way you portrayed your character. My first question is, how has, as an actor, how has being a director helped your acting, your craft in acting?
That's an interesting question. As a young guy, I really always did want to direct. And back in the 80s and even the 90s, those opportunities were limited. Almost all directors were hearing. They depended on audio. And I realized, well, how's that going to happen for me? And then at deaf theaters like National Theater of the Deaf, NTD, and Deaf West Theater, there were more opportunities. And I pursued those because I ended up becoming an actor. And then through that, I would get to see the directors that I work with and learn their different styles. And when they asked me to be an actor, I was always very attuned to the directors that I worked with. And I learned so much from all of them. I noticed that most directors, they work closely with the actors, and sometimes they're former actors themselves. And I thought maybe I should just do this acting thing for a while and learn some more. And things have changed over time. I've experienced both roles, and now I have a clear idea of the differences on stage and also with TV and film, which use more technology. It requires different planning. My wife, and it was in a show called Sue Thomas FBI. Her name is Deanne Bray, and she's my real wife. And the advantage is that I got to see her on set of that show anytime I wanted to. And I observed how they made things work. What they had to do with lighting. I would watch that all day. And then the next day, I would focus on the director of photography and observe them. And the next day, I would check out the stunt coordinator and see how they plan the fight scenes and the chase scenes. And I was able to absorb all of that. And that gave me a greater understanding about each of their respective roles. And now, in terms of having recurring roles with Sue Thomas FBI for my wife, that was a huge benefit for me to observe all these different people, actors and other directors, and all that has come together. That has given me a rich experience, both on stage, TV, and film. And I have to say, it's priceless. I don't have to go to school for it and to pay tuition and sit there at boring lectures and watch the interpreter all day. I was there. It was a real life education, and I learned the best lessons there.
And turning the question around, how do you think Sean, as a hearing person, how was she able to interpret the world of deaf people in this movie CODA? Like how important was it that you were able to help the director understand this world as an actor?
That's a valid question. When I was offered the role, I was wondering what the director would be like. I didn't know her in the past. All directors have their own style and how their process, but with Sean, I was so impressed. She did so much homework and research about deaf culture. She learned sign language herself. And she, in the past, had saw me on stage, but I never met her. And then that was years ago, and she remembered those performances when it was time for me to audition. I looked around and I thought this young person was just an assistant or something that was helping out. And they asked me to try certain things, which I did. And then later on, I didn't realize, wait, that's Sean, the director. She looks so young. And it amazed me. She was so enthusiastic. And on the set, if there was a problem with a situation, she was receptive to those conversations about deaf culture. She was willing, she was sensitive, and she adapted as to what we needed that would align with deaf culture. For example, the furniture in the living room of the Rossi family. How it was configured was by a hearing crew and the director. But then when Marley got there, she looked around and said, this is not befitting of a deaf family. This is not deaf friendly. They can't sit right next to each other and have a conversation. It would be too cramped. They didn't realize that. Deaf people are dependent on eye contact when they converse. You need to sit opposite one another. They moved it around, and the camera had to change its angle, but that was the beauty of a director like Sean, who was willing and receptive to do what was best to depict deaf culture, and wasn't worried about how things would sound necessarily. I was impressed that she advocated with the producers, because sometimes in the silent scenes, they wanted to add some kind of noise or music to calm the audience. But she said, hold on a second. Right now, this is going to be a silent scene. I want the audience to experience that. They were afraid to go that route, and you see the result. And people get a greater understanding. And I'm grateful to have such a wonderful director like Sean because of all those things. Whether she's hearing or not, she did her homework, bottom line.
Well, they can't do that. I told you. I can't always be that person.
Well, it was a beautiful movie. One of the most one of the best scenes for me was when you was able to hear Emily's character song by touch and feeling it. And I loved, I thought that was beautiful. It made me want to feel a song. And I hope to learn more about the deaf community. And I'm glad that this movie gave us a chance to interact, even if on screen.
That's my favorite scene as well. It's challenging for Frank at that point. He's trying to understand Ruby's musical world, and that informs his decision about what's best for Ruby. And it's a challenge for him. He needs to understand to make a better decision, and that's why he reaches out and touches her neck. In the beginning, when she sings at the school, Frank looks around and the hearing audience is blown away. They love the performance. He doesn't have access to that. And then secondly, he wants to understand Ruby, and that's where he feels her throat. He focuses in. And then thirdly, at the audition for Berkeley, and the family's up in the balcony, secretly watching the audition. And then she's singing, and then she starts signing. And that was an interesting moment. Those 3 scenes help Frank to understand Ruby's talent in singing. And really, Frank didn't care about music, but now his daughter does. And that's what love means. You cherish that moment and you do what's right.
Well, thank you. I love the movie. I love your character. Thanks for your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much.